Jules is a marine biologist. His studies of tropical fish have led him to conclude that the Earth is about to suffer a major catastrophe. He's outfitted his campus lab-cum apartment as a shelter to survive the disaster. He's gone online to offer a date with sex to change the course of the world. Jules, as always, is literally serious in what he says. The two of them will restart the human race after the boom, as the play's title puts it. Apparently another one of those pesky meteorites that hit us every few million years. Joe, a journalism student, answers his ad. But they're hardly the ideal pair for what Jules has in mind. He confesses that he's gay. Joe hates babies. And so playwright Peterson Nachtrieb is off and running for 90 minutes of wild and crazy adventures with these two. They do survive the boom. For months, they stay holed up in the shelter, afraid to go out into the still dangerous ruins of the world. Jules keeps trying to impregnate Joe. She keeps finding ways to defeat him. Director Sarah Lynn Holt plays the comedy with her Jules and Joe, who handle it smartly. Andrew Kuhlman is Jules. Kuhlman is a large man. Elizabeth Van Pelt is Joe. Van Pelt is a small woman. The physical contrast is funny, especially when Joe, eager for the promised sex, leaps on Jules. That's before she learns that he expects the sex to have consequences. Kuhlman is a very sweet and accommodating Jules. Van Pelt can be a prickly and uncooperative Joe. So playwright Nachtrieb and the RS Theatrics company keep things spinning. But the playwright also gives us a third character. Barbara, played by Nancy Nye, is very officious. She has nothing directly to do with Joe and Jules. She addresses us, the audience. She does sometimes push buttons that have an effect on Joe and Jules. At one point, she even gets on a phone to some higher up to complain that they have departed from some script they're supposed to be following. She seems to be some kind of guide in a sort of theme park display of the destruction of civilization many millennia ago and of its eventual revival, more likely from the slow evolution of the fish Jules keeps in a tank in his lab than from anything he and Joe do. I don't know why playwright Nachtrieb wanted this framing device. I found it less interesting than what Jules and Joe were doing. I could have done without it and just enjoyed them. It's a mildly amusing mind game, but for me, mostly a distraction. Keller Ryan fitted a convincing set into the chapel with the audience seated on two sides and where the notorious acoustics were not as bad as they sometimes are. Nathan Schrader did the lights and Mark Kelly the sound. Nye is properly starchy, but I mostly enjoyed the mismatches of Van Pelt and Kuhlman.
My reaction is pretty much the same as yours.
Okay, good.